Hi. So, over to you today. What are we going to discuss?
Well, some of that's been a long-term theme in therapy, like we use different analogies to describe things and stuff. And a lot of the times we've been thinking about like growing, and how we grow as a child and how we grow into the person that we become, and what we feed it physically and mentally and everything like that. So that sort of like resonated with me about like a tree growing. And for a while, I've had this like image in my head that I either want to paint or I want to create some kind of sculpture or art or something, which I think has helped me depict how I think understand how I've grown as a tree, but also understand how I'm changing thanks to therapy. So the image that I have in my head is of the tree, but the tree sort of like the image is sort of like blacks and greys, and the tree's growing in sort of like a black and grey environment, but the tree is like made out of barbed wire, and it's grown that way. Like the spikes are sort of like how I've got these coping mechanisms grown with these what we call maladaptions, disorders, whatever. But they were actually coping mechanisms, so that those spikes that I thought were protecting me have actually been causing me harm, and that have grown in a certain way, and how the branches are the different ways that we grow. So for me, I'm seeing the different branches of all the different labels that have been given by psychiatrists or whatever, that, depression, OCD, anorexia, and all these are the different branches of how I've grown and expressed myself. And the image I have is that it's a very bare tree just made of barbed wire, because that's how I've grown before therapy. And I want the image that I want to create now more so is the same image of the tree, but with tiny little buds or flowers on of really bright colours, but just only a few, not loads, because I feel that I'm changing. I've still got lots of the old labels and way of being, but for the first time, even though it's been a long time in therapy, I feel that there are buds growing, there's change growing, there's light growing.
And you can see from the images that you brought as well.
I didn't know how to do it, so I tried it online and with Google and asking all AI to do it to me, and that's what I've got. But one of the things that I was thinking that been quite on my mind this week is that, yes, I'm happy that I've got little buds on that tree now, but I'm not ready to settle. I want there to be more, and I feel as if I've got a lot more ways to grow, and develop, and things that I need to work on. I know some people go, you've had a lot of therapy and that, shouldn't you be on? I am better, but I still feel that I'm not ready to settle. I've got a long way to go till that tree's blooming. And yes, so my image is, the first one is my tree, my barbed wire tree. And then the second one is the barbed wire tree with blue blossoms on.
Yeah.
And
did you hold that up as well?
Whether it can see it or not, this is
it's
new
quite
for me.
bright, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
show and tell, isn't it? It's like show and tell.
If you get the barbed wire tree first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just looking at the branches on the barbed wire tree as you've put here. So I'm going to hold it like this. And so in your mind, these are all the barbed wire thoughts that you had, and you thought there were coping mechanisms, and it almost looks, when you see the barbed wire, like a nervous system, and you can see how
all the things that one of the other things that he says, the story that I tell myself, I took on from what had been fed to me, what you feed to this tree. I took on all the words and what everybody around me was saying, and what I was fed about being stupid and not nice.
So if you then look at the tree and see the innocence of the tree in its environment, it's being fed all this from its environment. So when you say that people get to a point and say, "Oh, you've been in therapy a long time," well, you've been in this environment the whole of your life. Yeah. If you've grown in this way from your environment as a cell, then therefore, when somebody says you've been in therapy for a long time, you've been in this longer. And so then you come to therapy for 50 minutes once a week. You're in this 24 hours a day.
And also, as well as, I've never thought of it till now till you've said it, that tree fits in with that environment well. Exactly, and that's what I was trying to do growing up.
In this environment as well, these little barbed wires that you grew, that you said is illness. The beginning of illness, it only started at 2. People were diagnosed with 2 things, then 3. Look at all the diagnoses that you've been given. So you've then grown a new spike for every new diagnosis that you've been given. If you'd have started at the beginning with 2 hours, it did in the medical books, then you wouldn't have had all these in the 1800s. They'd never even heard of them. So what you do then in your mind is, if you have all these, the words complex and all of this lot going on, you know, when you look at the tree and how twisted it is, it looks like it would take how long to untwist all of that's been twisted into your mind then. And so when you see that means the environment that you're growing isn't healthy. So if you look at, well, what we do then is we get people with labels and think, well, that person's healthy. Have a look.
You couldn't undo all that barbed wire in 6 sessions.
No, you can't.
You might get one branch done or something like that.
That's it, or just looked at. But then you begin to accept yourself like this, because people accept themselves as they are, because they can't believe that in this environment for themselves from what they learn, that they're going to learn. And that's where Freud, you know, explained, as I've said many times, the insane don't know they're insane. So when people don't know they're insane, they don't realise it's talking about all of us. No matter what label you're, it's talking about you.
Yeah.
If this is an environment that's insane, we're all in it. We're all this growing in. And then from what you've said then, what happened then for you in therapy, you started to change the beliefs of the barbed wires. You started to do something with them. And then the nature
sort of understand why they were there.
So the point is that what we've been told is to go inside of ourselves, but we don't want to, because we have all these barbed wires that by the time we go inside of ourselves, like I'm bored, I'm all of these things. That's because we've been taught to do things all the time to entertain ourselves. But if you go inside of yourself, that's only where happiness and health grows. By looking inside of yourself, not looking at the external world, because you've done that and this is the result. For many of us, this is what the result is. If you don't have them, you know, if your mind isn't thinking healthy, if you're not feeding it healthy stuff, and what healthy food do you think gets fed to the mind? Well, the majority of programs, you know, when a child's programmed, when we're programmed for good and evil, when the child, so we're the heroes, there's always a hero in there, you see all these superhero films. From the age of 2, our brains are brainwashed with these superhero films. What do you think it's training the child for? To be okay to go to war, to be okay to go and kill other human beings. And that somebody can tell you why you're doing it and you'll believe them. And it's usually not for a good reason. Do you see what I mean? Because it's always about greed when you want something. I need to get rid of them so I can have that. So it's that, looking at why are we fed these things? Why are we fed it? And then we go and blame someone else for it.
It's like all that this tree is getting, it's like from like the rain it's containing, like school or the negativity or the news, everything's like doom and gloom and living in fear. And everything's about fear. You know, even at the news now, it's like the weather's dangerous, whether it's sunny or rainy or whatever. Or
everything that's good is turned into something bad.
There's always being fed
Evil.
Negativity, and that we've got to be fearful of everything. And so the tree is growing in that environment, so it grows up with this armour to try and fit in but protect itself
against its, and guess what, whatever it's been taught. So then when you see where it's being fed, actually, you've grown like this. And then what you're saying is that from the inside then out comes this, because now you're feeling a different kind of way, or believing something different, believing I'm not going to take on all of the food then of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed myself good stuff.
Yeah.
So if you imagine then, I'm going to put that down for a second, about your eating disorder. And so if you think about it, to me, what it looks like is the majority of people have an eating disorder. The majority of people I see have an eating disorder. And the majority of people I don't see have an eating disorder. And what I mean by that is, if you have your shopping list and you go to the supermarket and you have your shopping list, and I know that I've said that, supermarkets are chemical factories, but what I'm speaking about is another shopping list. Your eating disorder on a daily basis is from the tree with the spikes from your environment. So if you think about what's on your list of this eating disorder, I'm going to feed myself on a daily basis murder. I'm going to feed myself, like you say, the weather, how dangerous it is, what the sun's going to do when it grows everything. I mean, why should something that grows everything cause your harm? And the chemicals we put on our body now. So I'm going to feed myself that. I'm going to feed myself false lies, because I believe what people say, and when I believe them, I don't bother to go check it out for myself. So I'm going to believe in that. I'm going to believe that I'm not good enough, because that's what I was taught at school. And I'm going to believe that on a daily basis, that is going to be my eating disorder, because I am in disorder because of what I psychologically do. So we psychologically eat junk food. And how do you feel after the thoughts?
Dreadful.
You feel dreadful, because the thoughts that are telling you, this is what I must do, I have to do, it's all a prison thought, and it's all a disorder. And so you have to work hard for a living as a disorder. All of these things are a disorder. Everything on the planet is already here.
Yeah, you've got to achieve a certain thing, you've got to earn a certain thing, you've got to look a certain way, you've got to do all these kind of things.
When you spend your life doing it and then you retire, what do you think you've got at the end of it? You've spent your whole life working hard, being stressed, doing this, doing that, doing that. Where is your blue Peter badge at the end of it? There isn't one. There isn't one. It's just you're just on this treadmill. So that's why, in my belief, that I see many people with an eating disorder, because people say they love themselves. It's like, no, you don't. Because we expect others to love us, but we won't love ourselves, because we're so settled in it. To love yourself is to say, I need to look at what I physically, mentally, and emotionally eat on a daily basis. And if I don't control my mind like you control what you put in your bag, let me clean my bag out, clean it out, look, I've got a nice bag now, clean it out. You don't even do that for your own brain.
No.
So how can people say they love themselves when they don't clean all the junk from growing up out of their minds to replace it with the thoughts that they'd like to have?
And it's evidence that eating disorders are nothing to do with food. Exactly. They're very, very rarely to do it. They become about food, and they can be all and end all about food and calories.
But that's to focus on the thing you don't want to really.
Yeah, but that's it. So if you focus on that, you don't have to focus on the other bits that you're feeding yourself, which have nothing to do with food.
Exactly.
But if you focus on that, and that's why, in my view, for me, the treatment that I had for eating disorder before therapy didn't work, because it just focused on one aspect, as in the physical food I was eating, and it didn't focus about all the other stuff that was being fed to me or had been fed to me to get to me like that.
I think as well is that people have a different concept. It's like when you speak about healthy eating, most people say, oh, I'm a vegan or a vegetarian. It's like, but there's still chemicals in that. You know, you can eat a vegetable in something. If it's got a chemical in, then that is still a chemical. Do you see what I mean? So just because you're not eating a dead mutated body doesn't mean that you're
some of the processed vegan stuff I've looked at myself to think, because I bought into it, that'll be a healthier version and stuff. And it's got more chemicals and ingredients and artificial stuffing.
That's it.
Than possible.
That's it. So it's like, and these things that say, like I say, that say healthy, are they healthy? It doesn't seem to be working that way. So, you know, when we're speaking about, you know, what we eat, that's the reason. If you look at it now, would you say that you have a physical, mental, and emotional eating disorder?
Yeah, I still do, but it's very different to what I had a few years ago. But I am still feeding myself and being fed in my surroundings and taking that in. The negativity, the fears, the needs and expectations, and I'm still listening to that old voice, and that's what I think I mean when I'm saying I'm not ready to settle. I'm not ready to I still need to grow more.
Because what you're saying as well is that with you know, when you speak about how you I remember when you said somebody's, you know, you'd seen a physician and you said the internal dialogue, and you felt good because you'd been given a name for the voice in your head, the same voice that I call the schizophrenic voice. The reason why I call it that is because majority of people do what the voice in the head tells them because they believe in it. And so it's that the voice, if you don't like the voice in your head when you go quiet, then you don't like your society because that's where you got the voice from, everybody else. So that in itself said, I have this nasty voice that's telling me nasty things in my head. The realization just from that is your evidence. If you have nasty things going on in your head, then that is where your environment came from. Now have a look at it and say, is this an healthy environment that I'm in right now? And it doesn't matter who you are, you've been programmed, unless the people who haven't, with this nasty voice. The majority of people that have been in education, that listen and believe stuff, this is what you're in. And when you have a look, if you've got fear, you've got that from your environment. You see what I mean? So your mind, as you have been fed some nasty stuff growing up. And so then how can you not trust the inside of you and keep looking at that very environment to make you well or make you better if this is what it created in the first place? It's the oddest thing.
Yeah.
It's the oddest thing. And that's why I said, in a sense, we all have Stockholm syndrome. We tend to, you know, fall in love with the ones that have us and say, no, they know better.
Yeah. And still follow what they say, give them another chance and that kind of thing. We go back to in every arena, don't we? We go back to the same hospital that might have damaged us before, or we'll vote for the same party and think, well, they're going to do something different now, and that kind of thing. We still.
But why do we need these people in the first place? They have these false labels of a hierarchy. That only have a hierarchy because we give it to them.
Yeah.
But what is wrong with your hierarchy in terms of everybody is a human being equal that's acting as something else? And instead of, as I said, don't even believe a word I say. Go inside of yourself and find out what the real you says. But you don't listen. Like a very quiet voice that we don't listen. And that's why that same quiet voice, when you're in a lot of pain because of your eating disorder, only by you being in a lot of pain do we hear.
Yeah.
The body has to give you a lot of pain because it was telling you all along. You just didn't bother to hear it. And that's what it is. I just can't be bothered with this vessel because I'm far too busy in the external world, not listening to myself. So you don't listen, and the point where the body then has to scream.
Yeah.
I can't take any more of you doing that. And that goes into your nervous system as well. So, when you think, people say, you're a danger to yourself, but oh no, because you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this. It's like, actually, that's a very, open question, because if you harm yourself and your body knows it's been poisoned with chemicals, then you are, because your body would say yes.
Yeah, and negativity.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why you don't like the voice in your head, because there's something already saying to you, you shouldn't have this in here, it's horrible. The nasty voice you have in your head that criticises you, this is lies, you need to get it out, this is horrible. The feeling that you get that I don't like is a feeling of the body saying, can you get this out? Not the feeling that it's true. It's the feeling that the body's saying, in my interpretation. The body, if somebody says something nasty to you and you don't like the feeling of it, it's because they're telling you a lie. And it's because that is not meant for us human beings.
Yeah.
And it's being able to get it out. And the only reason why it hurts is because you believe them. That's the only reason.
So yeah, I want me tree to grow even more.
Yes, with more good stuff.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with that? What food are you going to eat?
More positivity, but more listening to myself rather than the voice in my head, trying to separate the two, because a lot of the time I think I am the voice that's in my head telling me all these things, but I'm not. It's about that's being put there, that's the recording from my environment, from my growing up.
Your voice in your head is from your environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you have feelings of shame or embarrassment, it's because your environment, you're listening to the recording saying you should be ashamed of yourself. So that's why we don't, say like somebody was speaking, you could see that they were embarrassed because the child was, they had a little child and the child was running around and being loud and everything else. And you could see they were embarrassed because, some people will give a look, or that kid needs to be sorted out, or that like it's just an object, not a human being. So everything we do is for somebody else. Who taught us that everything we do should be for someone else? Well, sit still, cross your arms, cross your legs, be quiet. Children should be seen and not heard. All of this that we tell to children is we're telling it to all of us. All of us is what we're telling. So we're compliant when we're older. And then we tell our children then when they're born, I haven't got time to be with you. I can't be with you. The reason why I can't be with you is because when I was young, I heard that I get on your nerves, I'm too much, I have to go to school even though I don't want to go because everybody else does it. So I learned that nobody wanted to be with me. So I don't know how to connect to you as a child because no one connected to me as a child. They didn't see me. I was a problem to them. I didn't behave enough for them. I didn't comply enough for them. And what didn't I comply with? The chattering, nasty voice in their head that told you to get rid of me.
Yeah.
In every,
so it's just coming back to me. You say I was told I should be grateful that they wanted children because nobody else would have put up with me.
Exactly. So you're so bad when you're born that when people, we inject evil and we say, oh, actually, I don't want to be with you. Why? Because no one wanted to be with me. They sent me off to people, to strangers, and it didn't matter. Oh, there's a little bit of bullying. There's either bullying or there's not. But when you're an adult, if someone bullied you at work, you get more rights. But when you're a child, because you're little, so they're just upset over a little thing. To them, it's big.
Light bulb moment.
Okay.
I mentioned it in therapy before. One of the things that sticks in, it don't come in my mind often, but one of the things that I remember from being very, very little is, and I'm thinking about 5 or 6 because of the context of everything, but I can remember at that age knowing, not thinking, knowing, there's no ifs or buts about it, that I would never be a mother because, one, I wouldn't wish myself on a child because I thought I was that bad as a person. I wouldn't want to bring a child into this world because it's a bad world. And then third came well, I ain't having anybody touch me, or what's involved with having a child and this, that and the other. But the two at the top were, I would never wish, I felt that bad about myself at 5 or 6. I would never wish myself on a child. I would never wish a child to have a mother like me who was that bad. And I'd never want to bring a child up in this world. Now, I must have got that from somewhere, because a 5 or 6-year-old just doesn't decide that.
And it's that your environment of that psychological abuse and that, when we think that we're being healthy towards children because everybody does it. But no, we're pretty damn evil to our young. You see wildlife. Yeah, they're around the young all the time. It's not, the 6 weeks holidays, I don't know I'm going to cope with them. There's none of that. They're relating to their young, they're understanding their young. Do you see what I mean? We don't understand ours. All we do, and we have willful ignorance with it because everybody else is doing it. So we become what we know. And so what we do is we have no empathy for a child. So when the child grows up knowing that, you learn the things you want to learn. You also learn a lot more things that aren't true and that you don't want to learn. And so what we learn is that we just don't want to be around our children because we can't relate to them, because that's what we were taught to do when we were young. You need to get out of my way, not because you're the problem. You need to get out of my way because this is my problem. Nobody is the problem, really. It's the mind is the problem of that we don't like. How my mind reacts to what you're doing is something that I don't like. And that does not refer to abuse, by the way. I'm not referring it to that. But it's that where somebody physically and mentally abuses you. But what I'm saying is when we're adults and when we're relating to children, we're relating to children because our mind is bothering us. And really not the child is bothering us. Our mind bothers us. And I want you to stop, because when you stop, that will settle down my mind, because I don't know how to do it myself. And I can't be bothered. So that's why people say, if they just stop doing what they're doing, I'll be okay. It's like, no, if you stop thinking that way.
Because I was never okay, no matter what I did, no matter what I conformed to, no matter what I complied to, I was never okay for my environment.
Yes. They always want more.
Yeah.
You could do better, you could do more, you could do more. And it's a form of cruelty towards children. I think now what they're doing is holding, when a child gets a certain mark, they read it out to the whole class. Imagine going to work and being humiliated like that. If you didn't get, because, you might have been stressed out, they don't know what you're going through at home, or, you might not be fed, you might have other things on your mind like you did. And then you go to school. And then if you get a full mark at school for the register, do you know that? And like some have reported, some parents sending the children to school poorly.
Yeah.
Poorly just to get that mark. Now the mine's going in, mine's going that. It's cruelty. But what's worse is that, not only parents are letting their children to go into this, is the fact that they're going to strangers who are doing that to children, who are supposed to be working with children, who are supposed to care about children. And then you can see how
it's quite hypocritical, isn't it? Because like with schools, I'm just thinking of the high school near me. They have like learning mentors and they have pastoral support now, which they didn't have when I was at school. But I know they do have now. But yeah, so they're talking about like we're looking at the whole person and the whole child, the young person or whatever you want to refer to them. But yeah, they still do it where the fair comes at the end of year for only those who get 100% attendance.
It looks to be doing something.
So it's like so contradictory.
Yeah, it looks to be doing something good, but in many instances, there are so many children that are affected now that they're not actually getting the support that they need. So they're just pretending. Because, a recent experience, and I'm not saying this for everybody, but it was a recent experience of, I think it was Ofcom or Ofsted, whoever they have going into schools. They were all acting. And the majority of parents were going, you should have seen them all teachers acting, all on the best behaviour. And it's like,
I've worked in a school, I've seen it.
If you can see that that's their acting, then why would you send your children to that school then? Because if they're acting in front of them, then what do you think the acting is in front of you? If they know that they're acting and they're going on their best behaviour, then what behaviour does the child get? You've got to ask yourself that question. That if they are acting normally and they know they're not, and they know they're already doing something wrong. Because if you're doing something right to help a child, you wouldn't have to change your behaviour to impress somebody else, because the only person you really should be impressing in that way is that child. To say, this is a planet and I want you to enjoy your life on it. And if you're not doing that,
we're all growing up like barbed wire.
I'm
I'm not the only one who's grown up
exactly
a tree of barbed wire. We're all
doing
growing up like that,
yeah.
but in the different branches in each of our lives, I just give them different labels.
And I guess is the, where Fate's seeing that and speaking about it and saying, there's something you can do. There is something you can do. Because you're right, we all grow up in it. And it's what we do with it.
I've got some buds growing.
Yeah. You're welcome. So, yeah.